First section of our course will be with our player, and we will add our player into our game and we will set it up correctly. Now, obviously, first thing that we need is our player, and I prepared this pack for our player, and it will be attached on this video. You just need to download it in your PC or laptop, unzip it, and then simply drag and drop your folder directly here in the assets panel, and then you will see this folder. It contains our player model, which is this. But before we add our player into our game, let's simply create a plane for our player to move on. And for now, we will use simple 3D plane of our unities from the unities 3D objects, but then obviously we will change it later when we will do our environment design. Now, to create plane, we just need to go in the hierarchies empty space here, right click with our mouse, 3D object, and plane. And here is our plane. By the way, I changed my direction light. I just changed intensity because our plane was too bright, and we will deal with our lightnings later. But for now, just select your direction light and just put intensity to be 0.4. Okay, now we have plane. Obviously, we can change size of our plane. If we select the plane, we have this transform component, which has the scale element, and we can change our sizes from there. Also, what we can do, we see here, this is toolbox, and we can select this rect tool and change size of our plane by hand, however we like. But anyway, let it be like this for now. It doesn't really matter. And let's add our player into our scene. We just need to simply drag and drop it into our scene. And here it is. We have our player, and half of our player is in the ground right now. So we can select this move tool, and we will just simply take it up so it will land on our ground, like so. Okay, I think our player is a little bit too big, so what I will do, I will change size of it to be 0.5 by 0.5 by 0.5, and yeah, it's better, I think. We might change it little bit more. For example, let's say 0.4, 0.4, and 0.4. Yes, we will leave it as a 0.4. Let's just take it a little bit down so it will touch our ground. Very nice. Now, first thing that I like to do when working with player is to simply create a parent game object. And Unity has parent and child system basically. And for example, we can select this player. First of all, let's change name, and let's say it to be player model. And basically, we can change this player model. We can select this player model, right click, and here we will see create empty parent. Let's hit it, and let's name our empty parent to be player. Now, as you see, now we have player, which is parent, and we have player model, which is child. It's just a simple way to group few game objects as a one. For example, we will control everything with this empty player game object, and we won't be bothering with working on model itself. It's just better practice and nothing more. For example, if we select the player, when we move, our player model moves with it because our player model is child of our player. Hope it makes sense. Now, anyway, let's talk a little bit about our game. If you have played Space Invaders, well, obviously it's 2D game and we are making 3D version, but doesn't really matter. We will have enemies in front of us right here. And we will be controlling our player's movement, horizontal movement like this, and we will be shooting at our player. Now, Our player is set up correctly. Only thing that we should change is to rotate this gun to be pointing to our enemies, because we will need it. And our player model has different parts in it. That's why I choose it. And if we, for example, select this drop down, you will see that it has different three parts, and one of them is gun. We can select this gun, and we can simply rotate it on the y-axis to be 90. And right now, as you see, our gun is pointing at the forward direction. That's exactly what we want, because, as I said, we will be controlling our horizontal movement, and we will shoot forward direction. Okay, now our player is ready, but in order it to really work, we need to add few things. And first thing that we will need to have is some physics elements, because if we select our player, don't select this player model, select the player, our empty game object, and if we drag it up, for example, and if we hit play right now, you will see that nothing will really happen, and our player will be freezed in the air. And in real life, objects can't be freezed in the air like this, because our Earth has gravity, and we can have gravity in Unity as well. By the way, before we go and talk about some physics and gravity, you saw that my main camera sees my player, and your main camera might be located in somewhere else, for example like this, and when you start game you might not see anything. So just select your main camera and just drag it into correct position, and we will change this main camera later, but for now let's just drag it so that we can see at least our player. Okay, now about physics and some gravity. We can select this player, and in the inspector panel on the right side we see this add component button. Let's click on this add component, and here we can find physics. Not get confused with physics 2D, it's for 2D games. We need physics. Let's go in physics, and main physics component is rigid body. So let's add this rigid body, and this rigid body adds some physical forces as well as mass, gravity, angular drag, air resistance, and so on. And basically, if we hit play right now, you will see that we won't be freezed anymore, and our player will fall down. Okay, very nice, but the problem is now that our player just gone through our ground, which is not nice. We want our player to land on our ground. That's why we have ground. And right now, our player and our ground, our plane, are just ignoring each other, because they don't know if they can interact with each other or not. And two game objects interact in Unity. They both should have colliders in order to collide, basically. And if we select our plane already has mesh collider by default, but our player doesn't have any kind of collider. So what we can do, we can select our player, and again, don't select player model, select this player itself, and we will hit add component, and we will search here for the box collider. Let's hit it, and here is our box collider, this green box, which is set to which has very wrong offset right now. So what we can do, we can just simply change our offset. We also should make it bigger. So size on the X, we will change little bit, not too much, like so. And let's drop our player down for a moment to see how it looks like so. Okay, we will just take our collider a little bit up so it won't be in the ground. Right now it's a little bit in the ground, so we'll change center on the Y. We will take it up little bit, And yeah, here it is. We have nice box collider around our player. And you just need to add this box collider. You don't need to be super precise with size of your collider, but just make sure to your collider to fit your player. Now, anyway, if we drag our player up again, and if we hit play, our player will successfully land on our ground. Very nice. And only thing that is left, well, first of all, let's take it down once again. Let's click F to zoom in, and let's see. Yeah, it's indeed on the ground. And only thing that is left is to select our player, and we see this rigid body and we see these constraints. We can select these constraints and we will freeze rotation on the X, Y, and Z because we don't need our player to have any weird rotational movements. And we will also freeze position on the Y and on the Z because we want our player to move only on the X, only on the horizontal axis. Very nice. We can save our scene.